Let's now take a look at a journey to the west. Ponce Rinpoche gave this public teaching at Rocky Mountain, and then he mainly talked about the noble qualities of the Buddha. And the next part he talked about the noble qualities of the Dharma. Now, concerning the Dharma, what is the doctrine of Buddhism taught by the Buddha? Buddhism believes in the existence of past and future lives. If we take a young calf, a baby calf as an example, the baby animal has an instinct to suck its mother's milk as soon as it is born. It always follows after its mother intuitively loves its mother and has the instinct to hide from its natural enemies or predators. You probably don't know too much about the baby calves. Right after the baby calves are born, then the mother would lick on the calf, and then slowly the calf will be able to stand up, and then right away they would go to the teats of the mother and started to suck its mother's milk. It seems that they've done it for many times. They're so familiar with that whole process, but the fact is that they're just already right born. But the human babies, however, you have to guide them to suck the milk from the mother, and you have to teach them. So from certain aspect, we can say that the human beings are not as smart as animals. And on the other perspective, the particular actions or intuitions of animals may seem to be like a miraculous power. It seems that they already know where the milk is. When I was little, I really loved watching how the baby animals would go to get milk. And I thought it is really unfathomable. How would they be able to know where the milk is? But in the sutras and in the Buddhist teachings, the wisdom of the Buddha had already explained in terms of how the animals and beings have such intuition through the teaching of karma. All these behaviors are caused by its habitual tendencies from previous lives. Otherwise, it is unexplainable why the baby animal behaves like this right after birth. This alone proves the existence of the past and future lives. In the same manner, various occurrences of happiness and suffering that each and every one of us experiences are the ripening effect of the karma that we created in previous lives. Well, this is not determined by a certain individual, or does it make any sense if our happiness and suffering were solely up to another person or creator instead of resulting from our own karmic deeds? I myself, be myself or others, I really feel that Dharma is great, is really wonderful, but we also have very heavy habitual tendencies, which then resulted in our happiness and suffering. After studying for a period of time, contemplating for a period of time, you are still working with your habitual tendencies. Then you still experience all kinds of samsaric suffering. And when such kind of a karmic suffering comes to you, it's hard to apply those teachings to those afflictions right away because of your strong habitual tendencies. You cannot find any valid reasoning to support such an assertion that would deny the effect of karma. It is true that in this world some people refuse to accept the existence of past and future lives, while some hold firm to it. Whatever the case, as long as one engages in a long-term analysis of this topic by referring to Buddhist scriptures, one will gain certainty of this infallible truth. I remember back in 2011, on the 10th of November, I went to the Northwest University in China and talked about the past, future lives and taking rebirth in the Pure Land of Sukhavati. I only talked a little bit about the later part of it, but majority of the class was on the past and the validity of past and future lives, especially from the aspect of the scholars and evidence that's been studied by various kinds of doctors. Now that the speeches I've given in over hundreds of universities are now published in digital formats. Well, before giving those speeches at universities, I made lots of research and looking into both of the Buddhist doctrine as well as the modern studies. I think both of those aspects are really important, and through both the Buddhist doctrine as well as modern research and studies, if you still do not believe in past and future lives, then what's the point of becoming a Buddhist at all? Also, I've translated the teachings given by Socho Mojo called the past and previous lives, the past and future lives, and I think it was such a great book. That's why I translated that. So, Ponzo Rinpoche over here said that let's consider, is it better to seek happiness with the belief in the existence of past and future lives, or is it better to do so while denying their existence? In the previous case, we strive for the welfare of this and future lives, and even if the future lives turn out to be not existent, we will not suffer a big loss. So Ponzo Rinpoche over here specifically talked about it from a very different perspective of the aspect of seeking for happiness while acknowledging there is happiness, there is past and future lives, or there isn't. However, if we only think about this life and blindly believe in the non-existence of future lives, then when this life approaches to its end and we find ourselves having no choice but being pulled to an unknown future life, it will be too late to regret not having made any preparation beforehand. Ponzo Rinpoche, while giving the teachings at that time, there are lots of people in the audience, not so sure if you can see it in the blurry photos. We would only feel great sorrow that we had been cheating ourselves to such a degree. In the worst case, if one is born into hell realm, any type of suffering experience there is unendurable, and the lifespan is extremely long. Therefore, please consider carefully whether it is necessary to believe in the existence of reincarnation or not. There are many reliable teachings and logical inferences in Buddhist scriptures to validate the existence of past and future lives. And for genuine followers, it is unnecessary to prove this, since they have already developed a steadfast conviction. For the young people who grow up in a Buddhist family, or people who developed a firm conviction, they don't need to prove this. But there are still so-called Buddhists who do not believe in past and future lives, and through their actions we can see that they don't believe in karma at all. And there are still people who would go about and preach their thinkings with the hat of being a Buddhist. Even if gods from celestial realms came to dissuade them from believing in this, their certainty will not waver. However, for those who are not serious Buddhists, they may not really trust Buddhist theories and suspicious, do past and future lives really exist? Even if there is no evidence to prove the non-existence of future lives, many people still hold this doubt with an inconsistent mindset. While in fact there is really nothing to prove that past and future lives do not exist. Anyway, it is safe safest to do in life. It is safest to do everything in life with the recognition that the afterlife exists. As a Tibetan proverb goes, even if one stirrup snaps, the other still works. And Pontsuk Rinpoche usually would quote this Tibetan proverb. Sometimes he would use this to talk about the importance of the practice, to practice both ultimate and relative. If the ultimate does not work, you can still hold on to the practice of the relative, which is chanting mantras and all those accumulation of merits. If we choose what to adopt and what to abandon with the consideration of the existence of future lives, we can hardly go wrong. Otherwise, disregard future lives can only cause us to delude ourselves and others. As a result, we will inevitably suffer the miserable consequences. That said, it is the best to acknowledge the existence of future lives and make sound preparation for them. While admitting the existence of future lives, do Buddhism attach greater importance to this life or to the life after this one? Lives after this one. Future lives are more valuable because no matter how overwhelming the happiness we may attain in this life, it is temporary, and no matter how tremendous our achievements may be, it will not last forever. Even if we're ambitious to become the leader of the entire world, however vast our merit may be, we cannot possibly achieve the goal without painstaking efforts over 1 or 2 decades. Further, even if we have made it eventually, we may only enjoy the privilege for a couple of decades. So the happiness it brings us is very short-lived. Just as happiness is not long-lasting, so is the suffering we undergo in this life. As you can see, all of you present here are past your 20s or 30s, and not many of you are able to live for another 50 or 60 years. Given that both happiness and suffering are temporary in this life, pursuing happiness and eliminating suffering only for this present life should not be primary goal of ours. Comparatively speaking, happiness and suffering in future lives are endless and countless. Take suffering, for example. If you were to be reborn into the hell realm, you would find your body lying on a burning metal ground, being impaled by arrows and spears, being cut up by saws, and being tortured by other weapons. No sooner has your upper body been cut through, your lower body that had just been chopped up, it becomes restored, and no sooner has your lower body being hacked up, your upper body becomes restored. And just like this, you would relentlessly experience the suffering for hundreds of thousands of years before there is no end to it. There is none end to it. Conversely, considering happiness, if you are reborn into a pure land of Sukhavati, the ease and happiness you will enjoy there for one day far surpass the most inconceivable happiness experienced in the human world throughout hundreds of thousands of years. The bliss and happiness of Sukhavati are incomparable to any happiness in this world. So, how would we describe the situation that one disregards future lives and just focuses on this life? It is like making a choice between working to assume oneself of food and clothing for one day compared to the entire life. I'm sure all of us feel it is silly if someone chooses the former. Whether you enjoy happiness or undergo suffering, that which is experienced in one day is short, but one lifetime is long. So you should try your best to pursue lifetime of happiness. Similarly, this life is temporary, and all future lives are long and endless. If you fail to seek happiness for your future lifetimes, then it may not be too much to say that you are the most unwise among all the unwise. A Tibetan saying describes the 3 kinds of people as being dumb as yaks with upper teeth, in which the upper teeth makes the yak even more clumsy. Conversely, if you work for happiness of all future lives, the extraordinary benefits of this present life will spontaneously come to you, and you will enjoy prolonged life, good health, abundant possessions, stately appearance, and many other privileges. All these benefits will reach you as effortless as a charcoal that is naturally produced when you burn firewood. So for every one of us, we will suffer more and more, and our bodies will become increasingly weaker as we age. If we do not consider our future lives and do nothing for them, a tremendous sense of sadness will fill our hearts. The moment we think that we will disappear after this world. However, if we have accumulated great amounts of merit for our future lives, the closer we approach death, the happier and the more joyful we will become. This reminded me of a monastic who got ordained a year before I did. He got ordained in 1984. I met him in the summer and I told him that do not take our health and our body for granted because it is impermanent. And after 3 months, he got a checkup that his tumor becomes a vicious cancer, and then it's already spreaded. And then instead of being really saddened by it, he was extremely happy, and he said, no, it's really wonderful that death is coming. He faced death with great joy, and now he's already cremated. By facing death in such an attitude, I think it is so wonderful. There are all kinds of auspicious signs that appeared during his cremation. He also stayed in Langar for a period of time, and he spent his whole life in meditation and practice, but he wasn't so well known until recent years. But I think this is how and what happens when people get famous, when they're more well known. That's when their lives are coming to an end as well, when the good things are ending. So when it comes to death, there are the very inspiring practitioners just like him who at times of facing death, he was extremely joyful. When he heard that his cancer is at the late stage and there is no need to cure it, he was laughing and he was really happy, and he said that I must sing a Doha song for it at the hospital. Just like the great masters who have dedicated their entire lives to Dharma practice, the closer their lives comes to an end, the more inconceivable their ease and happiness is. As if a patient will soon be fully recovered from his sickness, it is described by the Buddha in the Vinaya, the exhaustion of longevity brings about great joy, like being recovered from sickness.